couple of days leading up, the wedding should be fine. But it has been perfection from the start, so.
Thank you.
Very lucky. Organised. So Verona, one thing I learned here is that you really don't have to be that hungry to eat a horse. I tucked into a little horse burger the other day and just give it a try. After China, I could eat anything, so ravens, snails, rats, pig's penis, spiders, yeah.
No.
Well, Shakespeare got one thing right. This place is stunning, and so is the bride. How they going? You look absolutely radiant tonight. Like if Juliet had actually survived long enough to get to the honeymoon. But in all seriousness, standing here, surrounded by history and beauty and a bunch of wonderful humans, I couldn't be happier to celebrate two people who are writing a much better love story than Shakespeare ever wrote.
Yeah.
Seb and I met in one of the legendary Wollongong University campuses and hit it off instantly with our mutual appreciation for waves, parties, adventures, mischief, and water balloons.
Get it up, yeah.
Seb was the man on campus. He wasn't exactly Van Wilder, nor was he Goon James.
No, he wasn't.
A man so Aussie that he always wore a wife beater and carried a giant army canteen of wine around his neck. A man so gnarly that he once used copious amounts of his own blood to colour his Halloween costume red. A man so daring that he drank an entire sack of goon in one sitting and ended up passed out in a jumping castle in the middle of the day in front of all of the children. A man so notorious that generations of residents of Camp East were nicknamed after him. No, Seb wasn't competing for Wollongong's next top bogan. As my mum puts it, he's a charmer.
Yeah, he is.
He could light up a room like a twerking fembot at a party for electrical engineers. He could hold his own out in the surf, could play a mean game of football, could make the girls laugh, and could drink almost as much as his dad. By the way, I'm waiting to see Maciek's magic trick. Apparently, he can make 2 full bottles of Belvedere vodka.
Oh my goodness.
That's me. That's me.
We will wait and see. But look, life at Campus East wasn't always easy for Seb. I'd see him coming in some days, his hands aching, red and swollen from all of the high fives he'd been giving out around campus. Seb and I bonded over many things, but waterbombing other residents was one of them. On one occasion, we spent a lovely springtime afternoon on a friend's balcony, cheerfully lobbing water bombs onto any lucky residents who happened to walk below us. The next week, because you escaped. The next week, we were summoned to the Dean's office and accused of racially motivated water bombing. I am proud to say that our victims were multicultural. I'm as open-minded as a border collie at a dog park. Doesn't matter your breed, I'm herding him in. Anyway, Seb escaped the wrath of the Dean of Campus by studying abroad for a semester in Switzerland. I, however, stood alone to face these xenophobic charges. I argued my case. He saw my point and kicked me out anyway for a broken beer bottle. But we'd left on such a great note. And 6 months later, we had lined up the absolute dream team for our what do we call it? What do we live in? A little common room?
Trifecta?
Yes, exactly. The trifecta with the legend himself, Chris Dodd.
Okay.
May he rest in Brisbane.
Did Just had a baby.
Now picture this. Seb, walking in the door, fresh off the plane from Switzerland, a big hooded parka on his back, strutting like Liam Gallagher,
Let's go.
holding a bottle of vodka in one hand, in his other, fist pumping to Viva La Vida by Coldplay, pumping out of my computer speakers. He was back. And shouting his adopted catchphrase at the time, which was Retin. Still is.
Straight in Swedish. Yeah. And straight out. So, and again.
Swedish.
And man, didn't we have some experiences in that place? I remember one night, myself, Seb, and our American friend Will, we were hanging out in my room, and we heard like a commotion down the hall. So we turned the corner to see a packed room of obscenely drunk college kids, all wearing costumes, chanting like cult members, as two strong footy players dragged a chosen victim to a mattress on the floor to be bounced towards the roof. Brad, they chanted. As the poor soul, who was dressed in an inflatable clown costume at the time, was pushed from the crowd, gripped by each arm, bounced several times on a mattress, and launched mercilessly headfirst into the ceiling. I remember standing there in that crowded, chaotic, cacophonous, and completely unhinged room, Seb and I. We looked at each other and we knew we were witnessing culture. In the goal. One thing I learned about Seb, which has already been mentioned today, which I thought was interesting, is that he is a fixer. Yes. The kind of guy who could have made Michael Cohen look like an intern on his first day at Trump Tower. Seb never needed a checkbook and a lawyer. He just flashed that green, said a few cheeky words, created distraction. The next thing you know, we're sneaking onto a harbour cruise or waltzing into Elvis's Graceland in Tennessee like we own the place. No matter the situation, whether it was dealing with greedy hotel managers in NASCAR in Florida, revamping his parents' coffee shop, discussing burn decorations with the dean of campus, losing our minds at a Greyhound bus station, or negotiating with an angry North Carolinian as he struts around a car park, tearing his shirt off and saying, "I'm a real redneck." Seb seemed to always stay cool, to find a solution, even when it felt like there were no more options. Like attempting to tame a wild boar using only compliments and interpretive dance. He'd just say, "I got you." And he'd somehow get us out of it with a smile and a story. Seb's like a human radar for weird and wonderful personalities. He takes an interest in everyone. He's like he's auditioning them for a reality show only he could host. My high school friends nicknamed my dad Pole because they were convinced he had a metal rod permanently lodged up his backside. But when Seb came along, he somehow managed to make my dad loosen up. Whether it was twilight sailing on Sydney Harbour, cracking jokes at the boathouse, or duck hunting in Kangaroo Valley, Seb and my dad just clicked. They'd share stories and laughs that somehow made me realise that my dad wasn't half as uptight as I thought he was. Seb has this magic ability to see people for their best bits, even when you don't see it yourself. Casey. We had some great road trips from Wollongong and Sydney over the years, but what can really beat a road trip through the United States of America?
Gobble, gobble.
I know. A road trip across the deep south with these two. They had me in stitches for most of the trip. The beauty of travelling America as an Australian. They can't put you in a box or slap a label on you. They can't tell if you're being serious or not, which they rarely were. Dressing up as frat boys and hitting up the country club in Napa. Hunting for a homeless man in the pouring rain in a graveyard in New Orleans. Arguing with street preachers in Tennessee. causing havoc on Austin 6th Street, shooting Walmart guns in an abandoned warehouse in a Mississippi swamp. We really made the most out of great American highways and Walmart return policies. So the three of us had just driven across Alabama state lines. Seb, Mark, and I were stuck in traffic, and I sort of said to the boys, we're like, what's the capital of Alabama? I had no idea at the time. And they kind of ummed and ahed for a little bit, and then Mark went down the window and asked this big African-American woman who was in the SUV next to us, excuse me, what's the capital of Alabama? And she just looked at us and said, nah, y'all just tested me because I'm high. And then wound up the window again. Alright, I've only had one proper argument that I can remember with Seb over the years. You know when you've been traveling with someone for over a month or more, those little things start to get to you? You know, the repeated punchlines, catchphrases with every new group of people you meet. The way Seb always had to walk ahead of me on the sidewalk, just a little bit. Like I'd catch up and he'd just walk a little bit further. I wasn't going to say anything, but...
I never knew that.
Well, one night, after too many scotches on the rocks in a Manhattan apartment, listening to some racist guy play the didgeridoo, Seb decided that we should put our cowboy hats on and hit the streets. We got into a bit of a disagreement about whether I'd damaged someone's bike in my drunken stupor. I walked off and eventually slept, fell asleep in the bushes somewhere.
Central Park.
Only to be woken the next morning by two policemen responding to several reports of a dead body in Central Park. They escorted me back to the apartment in shame, and there was Seb, just taking me in like a disappointed father, shaking his head and clearly relieved. Seb's connection to animals is something that really caught me off guard. Who knew that the guy whose favourite catchphrase for a while was snapping necks, cashing checks? Who knew he'd have such a soft spot for dogs? I still remember the impact of losing his dog Mona the impact it had on him while we were travelling across America. It was honestly touching. And it's in those moments you really see the Seb that we all know and love. The caring, thoughtful guy who'll go the extra mile to make sure his pups, and all of us, feel looked after. I remember in 2009, we were at a nightclub in the Gong when I got a call saying I got into the University of France to study abroad. Good news. Seb went straight to the bar and ordered 2 shots. And sank them both. You did. His response, yeah, see, perfect. One of my best friends is leaving and I'm working at Dell. It was like a scene from a movie when someone spirals out of control. I was honestly flattered that I was sending Seb's life off careering into a ditch. But he's someone that truly wears his heart on his sleeve. I've seen firsthand how much love Seb gives for his parents and how much care he has for his mother. His loyalty and generosity as a friend are truly unmatched. And Ollie stole my line, but I'm so proud to call you my friend.
We all are.
Well, I first met Aliona during their visit to Sydney, and suddenly it all made sense. Her sharp sense of humour, the dark tinge in there, I could hit from that 2 hours we spent together. I could tell you know how to dish it out. The infectious energy perfectly complements Seb's adventurous spirit. Together they're like 2 puzzle pieces that are just meant to fit together. Aliona, I wish you a future of endless laughter, spontaneous adventures, and a lifetime of memories that are as vibrant and fun as your spirit. Here's to a journey where every day feels like an exciting new chapter. With Seb by your side, I have no doubt it'll be one filled with love, laughter, and just the right amount of mischief.
Yes.
To the bride and groom.
The right way.
Well, cheers.
Yes.